Fighting Noise, a non-noise podcast. Today, we're heading underwater to explore the hidden impacts of submarine noise pollution. From military vessels to commercial ships via industrial activities and underwater infrastructure, the ocean is no longer a silent world. But what does that mean for marine life, global ecosystems, even such as our food chain, or even geopolitics? To surface the truth behind the noise we can't hear, but the ocean can't escape, I'm glad to have as a guest today, Damien Demoor, founder and CEO of the French startup Greenov. Hello, Damien.
Hello.
Really nice to have you here. Let's dive in directly. How urgent is the problem of underwater noise pollution?
The underwater noise issue is a very recent knowledge because I would say that just over, I would say, the last 25 years that scientists work on these topics, and there are more and more scientific publications that deal with this issue, the deal of impact, and that demonstrated that the underwater noise can have a very huge impact on all ecosystems, of course, including big mammals and cetaceans, with some, I would say, proof of impact of military vessel using their sonar and that killed some animals. But now it's also demonstrated in a lot of other species, of course, cetaceans, but mostly all of them, and even algae, that was demonstrated a few years ago. Scientific activities allow us now to know that this underwater noise creates huge impact on animals that can go up to their death, depending, of course, on the level of the noise and of the type of source emission that deal with the issue. But now it's fully demonstrated, and the issue is that it's not well known from the general publics, and so compare, for example, to litter pollution with litters or other type of pollution, it's an unknown and an unseen pollution, but
Yes.
with a very high level of impact.
We'll dive in, and I think it's really interesting. You said it. We need to make it more public. But let's start with yourself. Damien, who are you?
So to introduce myself, I'm a French engineer, graduated from the French École des Mines de Paris. I also have the executive MBA from the French Business School. I'm 49. I've got 5 children, marine, and I work in the maritime sector since 25 years for several companies. But I would say the previous one before the current one was 15 years for Naval Group, which is a French naval defense company, when I was in charge of a lot of topics, including underwater noise and the acoustic discretion of submarine, which is a very important thing to avoid them to be detected. And now I created my own company named Greenov in order to deal with this issue of underwater noise and reducing the impact of several sources of underwater noise on ecosystems.
We better understand what's Greenov, but why you? Why did you decide to leave the corporate world of naval? I think with way more money to do things, and to turn into the impact world with maybe less money, more passion, more purpose. So tell us, why did you decide to do it? Why is this move?
Oh, it's a long story because since beginning I was born near the French seas, and I used to do a lot of things on the water or in the water, including diving, fishing, hunting, and a lot of activities around the sea and around the ecosystem. So all my life professionally was around the maritime activities, and the last one in Naval Group was also very important because I discovered the impact of underwater noise during this activities. I was in charge of the acoustic issue of submarine, at least in terms of research and development. And I discovered on this experience, I discovered that there is an impact of the noise on mammals. And then by studying all the things that I can find, I discovered that this impact is almost higher than I was thinking. And so that's why I decided to focus, because I love and I would like to protect the maritime ecosystem since the beginning. But I focus on this issue of underwater noise because I found that it's unknown and very challenging and impacting issue, but also topics where we can find a technical solution in innovation in order to try to do something to allow that human activities can be I would say suitable and can also be able to be done in a quieter way in order also to reduce this level of noise. So that's, I would say that's at the beginning a very challenging issue that I want to address, both for innovation because I'm focused on innovation, and of the impact that it can have, a real impact that it can have on the oceans. That, as you know, in France, we've got Commandant Cousteau, which is very well known, and he published a lot around the world of silence, and the ocean are almost all except silence. And human also increase usually this level of noise, so that's why it makes I would say a link with my youngness when I was watching Commandant Cousteau at the TV.
We have kind of the same years. We don't have, that's maybe not the case of younger generation. So I will put a link to discover Commander Cousteau for younger generation, not being aware about that. Before we better understand what you offer with Greenov, how hard is it to develop products for the underwater world, for underwater noise pollution? Because starting, even if you come from the industry, even testing is, in my opinion, very different. So how hard is it to do it? Can you explain maybe the process of developing maybe the first solution, the first product, and then we'll explain what the product is?
Yeah, of course, the first issue is not a technical issue, is, I would say, a regulation issue, because the underwater noise topics is, as I said previously, pretty recent in terms of knowledge and scientific knowledge. So the regulation is almost also very recent, with the first regulation, which is one directive from the European Commission, named MSFD, that describes the good environmental status of oceans to be reached, and that describes the fact that the 11th sensors indicators is about the underwater noise level. This is the first time, I would say, that the topic of underwater noise appears, and currently there is, say, a huge and increasing regulation about very intense noise, for example, from when you install some offshore wind farms and when you use big impact hammer in order to pile some pile into the seabed. But currently there is almost no regulation on the other sources of noise, like for vessel noises, for example. So the first topic is that without regulation, it's very hard to get interest of people, whether they are customers or funders or investors, because without regulation, there is no market, there is no need. So I would say that it's the very first things, and that's why right now there is, I would say, mostly one market, which is a market of the installation and the foundation of offshore wind farms. Concerning the other topics, unfortunately there is a lot of discussion around the reduction of the vessel noises, underwater radiated noises, but not a real market at this time. So that's the first point. So to be sure that there is someone that want to do something or that have to do something due to its own mandatory regulation. So that's the first point. The second point is that it's very costly because when you want to test a system, to make tests at sea is very complex. It's very costly. For example, to test our first solution, which is targeting to reduce the noise of offshore wind farm installation, the cost for the demonstration is around 10 million euro, because you need to rent big vessels that cost more than 1 million euro per day in order to demonstrate your solution. So it's very costly just for making tests. So that's a very challenging issue, because of course you cannot develop right now the best system. You need to test and to improve, and each step of testing and improvement are very very costly. So that's the topics also. The second one is that the sea is very challenging, because compared to the aerial activities, oceans are strong and have strong conditions, whatever this current wave or others. And that's very challenging to imagine solutions that can really resist to the power of oceans, and that also increase the level of noise. So I would say
So
that
you're a crazy man. You're a crazy man to start it, because you need regulation,
that's
first
it.
of all. You need a lot of money to test it. And you do it in extreme conditions, unplannable, partially unplannable. So you can have surprises, even if one day of test it does cost at least 1 million. You have maybe to cancel it or to adapt it. Maybe is it an explanation why no one did it before? Is it? Yeah.
That's a good summary of the craziest of doing this type of thing. But yeah, that's very complex and challenging to work on these topics. And to be fully honest, that's not the most easy way of starting a new company, a new startup for a new business activities. But that's a very challenging and impacting issue. So we need to do it, and it's really important to do it. And also, there are
I love
some
it.
advantages because as it's complex and as it's costly, there is, I would say, competitors that challenge your solution and that challenge your product. And as the maritime field and actors are pretty, I would say, the technology reluctant. That does not mean that they do not want technologies, new technologies, but that means that they want before that they are demonstrated. And as the demonstration step is very costly, it's like for airplane building, it's allow, I would say, that you have a technological and commercial lock for your product once they are developed and demonstrated. So that's also an advantage that allow you to, I would say, to get big part of the market once you are sea proven.
We will add pictures if necessary. Try to explain, even for this podcast is an audio podcast as well as video. But for people listening to that, try to illustrate what are the solutions you do develop with Greenov. Maybe start with a subsea quieter. I understand it as a curtain to stop sounds and waves from industrial activities, for instance, on the shore. Can you explain a little bit what it is and how does it work concretely?
You have to know that, of course, human activity creates noises, but not the same level of noises and not at the same frequency. The worst noises that human can emit is military sonar and explosion into the sea. But just after this noiseless activities, there are the peeling of a big pile that create huge noises that can go up to 240 decibel, which is pretty high. Each time that the impact hammer pile drive one pile. To give you some key point, to pile drive one pile, it's around 4,000 hammer
Hammer.
times
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
and each times is similar to
240.
a micro explosion of TNT into the water. So that's a very high level of noise. And this level of noise can create, unfortunately, a lot of impact for ecosystems around the pile, depending on the position of the animals compared to the pile, but that can go up to the death, directly the death of individuals by the power of the noise that destroys their brain or their I don't have the English word for this, but the vessie natatoire for fishes. So that's I would say one of the most challenging topics is to reduce the level of noise of these big piles. The
And
problem,
maybe an additional explanation is that noise underwater is going way faster and way farther than air transmission of noise, meaning it's going to disturb way faster, so they can't escape. And far, meaning you can't really stop it. And even if you do it in a zone where no waves are detected directly, I think it can be, maybe you have the right information, but it can go over a lot of kilometers to.
You're fully right. The noise is propagating 4 times faster than in air. So that's
4 times
much more
faster.
than quicker and very far. For taking an example, previous test for military activities, they was done in order to demonstrate that the noise generated near India can be here at New York. So it's of course not in the right direction, and in terms of distance,
But in terms of
it's
distance,
more than 16,000 kilometers of distance
a
between
noise
the 2
emission
points.
in India
Yeah, can be here
could be
in New
heard
York. Yeah,
subwater
yeah,
in New York. I
yeah.
mean, okay, I don't need a picture for that. I think everyone can understand what we speak about. And that's why it's a global issue and it's not a
It's a
local one.
global issue, and of course, it's the distance of the noise propagation depend on its frequency. The lower frequency can go, of course, larger and farthest than the high frequencies. Unfortunately, the most of the big whales communicate at low frequencies, and so most of the big whales are impacted at a large distance for this type of pealing noise. Of course,
We'll
not by the death, of course. At this distance, it's not death; it's masking or it's behavioral disturbance. But if you take the same animals and put it very close from the pile, the issue can be also death of animals. So
And
to
even
avoid,
if we don't speak about death, you mentioned masking. Maybe we need to, for the audience of this podcast, we need to make aware that whales use sound for communication, but for geolocalization as well and for navigating. Meaning I heard about and read about this, and if I understand it right, they can leave the habitat, they can escape their habitat because of noise. And I even heard, it's maybe more poetic, but it's a dramatic situation that even if we love the sound of whales singing, they sing less and less because it's more scientific than that, but they don't see the point to communicate in a noisy environment and they communicate less with each other as well. So if we would speak about human beings, I think everyone will understand it's a dramatic situation for elderly, for instance, for older people, but we speak about the biggest animal on the planet here, and they just stop communicate to each other because of that. But
yeah,
you
you're
didn't.
fully right. For example, if you take as you say, the natural range of communication of big whales in the Atlantic Sea, they can communicate easily for at least half of the Atlantic Sea. If and it's not the case right now, but if there is no human anthropogenic noises created into the ocean. But unfortunately, with the vessel noise and other sources of noise, they can only now communicate in the real current world in a couple of hundred of kilometers, and not at the full scale of the Atlantic Sea.
So how do you solve that? Tell us. How do you solve that with your product, with your solution?
So we are mostly with our project. His name is Subsequator, and so we are focused most on this worst case noise, which is a pealing noise. So the issue is that we imagine and we develop a new membrane that is inspired from what we put on a French submarine in order to make them undetectable in terms of acoustic, of course. And this membrane is like I would say the 3D fabrics that can be used in order to create panels. These panels can be used in order to create cylinders, and these cylinders are put around the pile like big socks, I would say, in order to contain and to avoid the propagation of the noise. So in terms of for I would say for engineering people or people that like to get technical inputs, it's mostly based on a couple of physical principles. The first one is the use of air. The membrane is
Mhm.
entrapping air, a regular layer of air, and this is created a break of impedance because of the difference of noise propagation between water and the air. It creates this huge change of impedance, and this break of impedance is responsible for a huge efficiency in terms of noise mitigation. The second effect is the membrane is very soft and deformable, so the vibration of the noise can be consumed by the membrane itself, that transform a part of this vibration, acoustic vibration, into cinematic vibration into the membrane. And the last effect is the fact that inside the membrane we've got a very large number of yards that link to membrane, and this network of yards created what we call an acoustic metamaterial effect. That is, I would say, to simplify, like a network that make the sound lost into the membrane. So this is these three effects that allow us to reduce the level of noise, and it's not a short reduction because we are able to reduce the level of noise by between 12 and 30 dB. So that's not speaking except for acousticity, but if we are talking about sound power level reduction, it means that we can reduce between 94 and 99.9% the level of noise of pile driving. So that's a very efficient solution and demonstrated because we already did some demonstration with measurement at sea, whatever it is in Norway, in some French facilities, in the UK, and also lastly in the Saint-Nazaire Harbor early 2024. So I would say the noise power, the noise mitigation power is demonstrated. And now we are mostly working on how to deploy and recover it, because of course this membrane is deployed just during the peeling works, which is I would say 1 day per pile, and we need to deploy it to recover it after the peeling and to use it on the next pile of the same farm and then on other pile of other farms. So that's currently our target is to be able to use the system in a clever way in order to facilitate deployment and use then recovery of the system.
Let's better understand Greenov, the company you created. You created the company beginning of 2021. You mentioned the last test beginning of 2024. So I think there is a lot of R&D in between. What about the company itself? How many people are you working on this? Did you raise funds? Did you start to sell products or to sell kind of proof of concept? For that, explain a little bit more about the first phases of life of Greenov.
Yeah. So as you say, Greenov was founded in 2021, but in fact the technology started within Naval Group in 2017, and Greenov bought the patent to Naval Group early 2021. So that's I would say the 7 years of R&D that is now behind us in order to
so
develop
you left
the solution.
Naval with a patent.
Yeah, we bought them. Yeah. So to answer also your question, right now we are 17 people, mostly engineers, of course. We are hiring 5 new ones on the next month, or we'll be around 20 guys and women on the topics by the summer, I would say. The target is of course to finalize the R&D development. We've got 6 segments for the subsequenter. I explained just one of them, but we also target coastal works and not only offshore one. And on these 6 markets, we will finalize research and development and the demonstration between 2025 for the first segment and the final demonstration in Quebec on the Trois-Rivières Harbor in the St. Lawrence River that will be done in September. And the last segment will be demonstrated by 2030 with a demonstration with RTE, a French company, and EDF Renewables. So we will release our technology on the market on the next 5 years. The target after this things is to become the technical and commercial leaders of this noise abatement system market that represent around 500 million euro per year currently. But that's not the main, I would say, the main topic. The main topic is to avoid any human activities, human peeling, without any solution of noise mitigation. That's our main, I would say, our mission, because we are a company with a mission, and our mission is to protect ecosystem from this type of human impact. So right now we've got a turnover of 1 million euro in 2024, probably 2 in 2025. The turnover is mainly based on and due to the support of big industrial players like Equinor, like Total, like EDF, like RTE, like Valorem, that trust our technology and that support us in order that they can have in the future a better technology than the current one in order to solve this issue and to respect their mandatory regulation when they will install this pile. And that's, I would say, the first origin of our funding, and the second origin is the public funding. We were awarded of a lot of public funding, including the prestigious EIC European support that support, I would say, the most promising SME in technological field in Europe, but also the support of the French ADEME, which is an agency for, to simplify, agency for environmental activities and energy, and also support of the Région Pays de la Loire that support also us, and a few others, some European project also, Horizon Europe and LIFE project. And both this public funding and this private funding allow us right now to move forward on the RD, which is very expensive because between the T0 and the final release of the last segment in 2030, it will be around 30 million euros that will be spent in research and development to develop the subsequator. And the last point that will help us to fund our development and our scale up is an equity raising that we will launch in the next month. Of 10 million euros in order to get sufficient amount of money to finalize all the demonstration and to move up to the scale-up phase where we will be able to sell the system to the full 14 countries in the world that currently, taking into account that Europe is only one of these 14, but the 13
nice.
others than Europe that have currently, I would say, the positive regulation in terms of underwater noise.
That's perfect. Damien, I will stop here the part of question and I will open a second part of an open discussion. Thanks a lot for your first answers, and let's skip to the second part. Damien, thanks a lot for the first answers. Let's start the discussion part. While trying to understand underwater noise pollution, I've been a bit shocked about the lack of regulation. And I read a lot about the issue of regulating in a world where international seas, for instance, you need a consensus, and when we see in terms of sustainability, it's hard to get a consensus. 2025, I think it's even harder than before.
Certainly, yeah.
What do you think? You speak about coastal activities as well. Coastal activities are not international seas. Do you think we can get things down? We can get regulation if I compare to the noise pollution on field, in the continent, in cities and so on. I know it's taking months and years to get regulated, to get penalties and so on. So what's your real point of view about that, and what can we do to change the regulation?
Yeah, you have to, in order to answer your question, we have to separate the type of noise, because right now, to be fully honest, concerning the big noises, what is the name is impulsive noises, like pile driving noises, there are almost, I would say, a very efficient regulation in a lot of countries, including the European Union, but not only, in the USA, in Canada. It started in the UK, in Taiwan, in a lot of countries. And I would say that the regulation, of course, is increasing, but it's a real one with real threshold, and with which is not only theoretical. It means that you have, when you drive pile, you have to monitor in real time with several buoys. You have to monitor the level of noise, and if you increase the threshold, you have to stop the activities, and you will get some.
So the economical cost is massive.
Yeah, 1 million per day for the renting of the vessel. So let's imagine that it's very expensive. And so I would say that for the pile driving noise in almost all countries, and it's increasing the number of countries that took some regulation, like for example the Brazil, UK, and others. So I would say this is pretty on the good track.
Okay.
Even if we have to improve it, and we have to make at the European level the same rules, because there is the same regulation but not the same rules.
But you include pilling in your you spoke about shipping. You include pilling.
No, only pilling.
Only pilling.
And only offshore pilling. For coastal pilling, right now it's very, I would say, and it's not, even if they answer to the same regulation because they are not in the same country. But to be fully honest, on coastal works is not really the case, and we often what is requested is to put one solution to mitigate noise, but there is no control
Okay.
most of the time.
So just a form to fill, and
That's it.
there is no
For example,
sense of
when they
efficiency.
ask for a bubble curtain, people put one hole, make some hole into, and they consider that it's a bubble curtain, which is not the case. So I would say that for coastal works, it have to be improved, not the regulation, but I would say the fact that the agreement for works take into account really these things. For giving you an example, the south of France won coastal works with a regulation about underwater noise level, but the threshold that was decided by the prefecture was the worst case of what we can do into the water with human activities. It was infeasible. It's infeasible to reach this threshold. So that's one example of I would say the improvement of the regulation for coastal work.
And is there lobbies to change that? Because I think that's
I
as a
don't.
yeah, it's
I
a bit
don't.
hard. The mountain is high. For me,
Yeah.
with no noise, it's I mean, and it's part of my mountain too. But can we get it, or is there strong lobbies against that?
The problem is that for coastal works, they do not make a lot of money with coastal works, and it's very. I would say that usually the level of benefits on one coastal works is 1 or 2%, and so that's of course much more complex to add a cost of half a million or 1 million on these things. So I would say that it's a matter of cost, and it's also a matter of time because the regulation, as I said, is almost recent, so they will be hopefully more and more involved in this type of things.
But to understand the position of Greenov, you said there is a 500 million market out there. If you protect um, every underwater or coastal construction site, peeling
And offshore, yeah,
activities,
and offshore, yeah.
but you don't need more regulation
Yeah,
to create this market.
we need more
No,
regulation in terms
to
of
create this
countries.
market.
Yeah, of
The market is already existing.
the market is already existing on 14 countries, including Europe, but it's in, I would say, in increasing level in terms of threshold and an increasing level in terms of countries that apply regulation for offshore activities. For coastal works, it's the same, of course, regulation, but I would say that the real behind the regulation, the real is not at the same level of current activities. What is, I would say, the currently not, unfortunately, under control is the other type of noise, including the shipping noises. There is no regulation at all. And also, but it, of course, it's less impactful, but also the level of noise of the wind farm, but not during the foundation, but during the operational life. And these two
Okay.
type of noises are not currently are not suffer any regulation. And that's,
Okay.
I would say, this type of noise that do not kill animals, but they severely impact ecosystem at the population level at very large scope and very large field. So that's
We
mostly
plan.
in this shipping noise, and that we would have a huge request in order to solve the issue. There is an international maritime organization that took these topics under I would say, the pressure of the Canadian government, which is, I would say, the most active country in the world in terms of this type of noise, of underwater noise. And thanks to their, I would say, pressure and to the support of some countries, including France, the International Maritime Organization took, say, the decision to review its guideline, excuse me, concerning the underwater noise of vessel. But it's just guideline. It's not, unfortunately, it's not mandatory threshold. And to be fully honest, because we are usually work with a lot of company on these topics, most of the shipping company are and it's logic, involved in decarbonization in order to reduce their emissions. It's mandatory, there is regulation and things like this. And when you are discussing them around underwater noise, they are, I would say, pretty aware of the topics, but most of them are not, as there is no regulation, most of them
Concern. Okay.
can do
But
nothing.
decarbonization supports the fight against noise pollution.
So,
There is, and I will post something on LinkedIn in a few days around that. On mobility, there is a very ironic case that a lot of people think that electric vehicles will change noise pollution around mobility, which is not the case. And I will explain it, or maybe it's been posted the time we publish this episode today. But look at my LinkedIn profile. The most noise of a car is not the engine, which is already under regulation, and it won't change a lot. Will be the decarbonization of shipping, or will it have effect and impact on noise pollution, underwater noise pollution?
yes and no, that depends. There is some, I would say, solutions that will do nothing. For example, change the type of fuel or things like this will not do a lot of things. The main origin of vessel noise, of commercial vessel noise, is cavitation. The cavitation is the propeller. It's a noise of the propeller itself. And to explain you is that when the propeller passes into the water, it creates some water gas bubbles on the passage of the propellers, and just after, these propellers are exploding, and this
The gas
cavitation
bubbles,
effect
the
is
gas bubbles are exploding. Yeah,
not exploding but imploding on themselves.
imploding. Okay. Yeah.
And this cavitation effect is responsible for almost, depending on the speed and things like this, but almost between 50 and 2/3 of the noise of a vessel. So that's mostly the cavitation effect that will have to be reduced in order to reduce the level of underwater noise. And this cavitation effect can be reduced easily just by decreasing the speed of the vessel.
Okay.
So that's one very easy way of solving the both issue, because you
Technically
solve
easy, but economically, I think a mess
challenging.
and challenging to convince them to reduce the speed of ships.
Not so challenging, because when you discuss with ship owners, they would pretty agree, because it will allow also us to save a lot of money. But the issue is that they cannot do it by themselves. They need a regulation in order that to avoid that one provide high speed
Traffic
and
jam.
low time transportation, and the other one low time. So they pretty agree about this. There is a huge campaign of IFO, the NGO, on the blue speed. You can share their link. They make a very good activities around this. Companies are pretty, I would say, rare and agree with this, but they request an official agreement in order that it concerns all vessels. And that's the complex issue, is that right now there is no willingness of doing this type of thing. The European Union just released a report on the estimation of noise in the European Sea, showing that it do not decrease. No, we measure it, so that's a good way, but we do not show any reduction. And so hopefully, perhaps in the next days and weeks and years, hopefully that both the International Maritime Organization and the European Union will decide to make something in order to really decrease the level of noise. So it could be by the decrease of speed. It could also be by the improvement of the design of propellers, and we are working in Greenov in this type of activities. But it can also be done by the, I would say, the cleanness of hull, because when you let vessel into the water, there is biofilm that install on the hull of the vessel, and this biofilm increase the drag coefficient of the hull. And in order to maintain the same speed, the vessel have to use more power and more speed into the propellers. So I would say the cleanness of the hull, the design of the propellers, and the speed of the vessel are very efficient topics, both for decarbonization and for underwater noise. For
And
the
you
other
work
point,
on
that's not the
the
case.
design.
For the other solution, it will not be the case.
You work on the design of the propeller at Greenov as
And
a
also,
new solution, additionally to the subsea quieter and other solution.
yeah,
You work on that part.
and we work also on a new solution to fight against fouling in a preventive way, in order to reduce this biofouling without biocide, because right now the main technology to avoid them is biocide using. And so we are also working on robots in order to clean afloat in a preventive way vessel, in order that they can reduce their consumption up to 10% in average. and also their level of noise up to 10.
It's fantastic. It's a fascinating word, and I think we have to dive in another time in these topics because we will be out of time, and I think we could discuss it for days.
Probably.
Damien Demoor, CEO and founder of Greenov. You will be on Change Now in Paris end of April.
Yeah. I pitch around the subsequenter technology, so I invite people that would like to hear more about the subsequenter and to come and to discuss. It would be a pleasure.
So please, if you attend Change Now, contact Damien or look at the program and listen to his speech. I think it's fascinating, and we need to support that kind of discussion. I use that moment to say, no, I will be on Change Now too, so don't hesitate to get in touch. And I hope we'll be able to meet Damien as well during these days.
Fully.
If someone wants to support you to do something, what the best way to do it and what the best way to get in touch with you?
It really depends on his position and his willingness, but first, it's very important that people are aware and more aware of this thematics, because as you say, that's an unknown, largely unknown thematic. So to make people aware around them of this thematic is very important. That's the first thing. And if they want to get more input, more info, to join us or whatever, we've got, of course, a web mail, which is greenov.green, and on the website they can get all what we do, and of course our contact link in order to contact us.
Perfect. Damien Demoor, thanks a lot for your time today. It was lovely to speak to you about that very, very important topic, and that's not our last discussion for sure. Have a great day. I wish you well with your mission, and thanks a lot for everyone to listen to that episode. Please share it to people not being aware of this issue or being aware of this issue and looking for solutions. Share it with you. Give us please 5 stars on your favorite broadcasting platform to support no noise and to support fighting noise, and to make more awareness about that big topic of noise underwater and everywhere in the world. Thanks everyone, and see you soon.